Yo, 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 what up, what up, what up? I got a really cool one for you today. This workflow has the potential to make you a lot of money every month. I put in the title $2,500 a month, but honestly, I think it has the potential to do so much more. The system is designed to do a couple of things. It's all based around your email. It's designed to check your email for any sponsorship posts. Now that I am a content creator on TikTok with over 50,000 followers and I have this YouTube channel here, I have been getting hit up all the time from brands and companies wanting to partner with me. And not only that, because I create this type of AI automation content on YouTube, I get a lot of new business inquiries from, potential people wanting me to build systems and custom workflows for them. So I designed the system for myself, but I think it's really valuable and I wanted to share it all with you today. So I'm going to show you how the system works. Then we're going to walk through just kind of like an overview of the logic behind the system, basically why it's built the way it is. And then I'm going to go through piece by piece and kind of show you the process I went through to build it, the different components of this, and kind of how I use some other tools like ChatGPT to really kind of help me prompt these AI agents to really get the most out of this system. So the system is designed to do two of my favorite things: save you time and make you money. So I'm just going to run you through the system here just to show you how it works. So I'm going to go ahead and click test workflow. First, it's going to get a bunch of labels to make sure that these new emails aren't already for existing clients that I already have. It's going to classify these emails as either a sponsorship opportunity, a new business opportunity, or an existing client. It's going to evaluate the email for sponsorship to see if it fits my criteria, and then it's going to draft a response. And so once this is done, it's going to basically create the email draft in my inbox, and it's also going to label it as a sponsorship opportunity. And so if we come back into my email here, you can see now we have a couple drafts created and these have been labeled as sponsorship opportunities. So if I open this up, I've drafted a response to Aisha. It just says, "Thanks so much for reaching out and the kind words about my TikTok content. Really appreciate you following along and glad to hear my explanation style resonates with you. This sounds right up my alley. I'm definitely interested in exploring." And then I basically say, for a collaboration like this, I typically recommend either this, a TikTok product demo or a YouTube dedicated video for a more in-depth walkthrough. Of course, I'm flexible. Let me know what timeline you're thinking. Thanks again, me. And so basically this is really great because I can just come in here and I can basically see these drafts in my little label, sponsorship opportunities. I can kind of review them to see if they make sense. I can make changes. I can edit them. Then I can go ahead and I can send this off. If you want to get access to this system, I will leave a link in the description where you can join the new school community that I started a couple of days ago. Just come in here, come into the classroom. It's this one right here, new business plus sponsorship email. And you'll just come down to the bottom, kind of download these resources here. And then once you're back inside of n8n, come up to these three dots, go to import from file, navigate to kind of that email evaluator here. Go ahead, click open, and in a couple seconds, the entire system is going to pop in for you. And so your response time to potentially new business clients and to sponsorships really impacts kind of whether or not you're able to close the deal. And so this is a really great way to not have to be constantly monitoring your email, but to always know that you're going to have like a really perfectly tailored response created for you and ready to go to send out. And so let me just kind of walk you through this little logic here about how I kind of thought about the system. Pro tip that after I had built this system, I actually went into ChatGPT. They have a whimsical diagrams custom GPT here, and I just dropped in the JSON file for this. And I said, create a high level diagram based on this workflow. It should be simplified to the main points. And then it went ahead and it created this entire workflow for me right here. And I just wanted to add a couple things and change some colors around. So that's kind of like a cool way to use ChatGPT to help you create these kind of diagrams. Anyway, back to the flow. So it's really designed to do a couple things. Basically, it's just first, it's designed to get your email, right? It just checks for an incoming email. Then it extracts kind of any of the fields and formatting. So a couple of things that I wanted to make sure I had access to is just like the sender address. Who's this coming from? My address, the subject of the email, the body of the email, the ID of the thread, which is basically kind of the email chain, and any of the label IDs, whether it's new business, client, sponsorship, etc. From there, it's going to get passed to the classifier. And so I did this because I wanted to be able to evaluate what kind of email is this? Is this a sponsorship email? Is this a new business email? Or does this come from a client who already exists? And then kind of based on which one of these, it's going to route it down a different route. If it's a sponsorship email, it's going to evaluate whether this is a fit for me. And it's based off some criteria I set. And I'm going to show you how I kind of came up with that criteria using ChatGPT. From there, it's just going to basically create an auto reply response. It's going to create the draft. It's going to label the email, and it's just going to save it in my drafts. Likewise, if this is a new business inquiry, it's not a sponsorship, it's someone looking for me to build automations or systems or customize something for them. I'm basically going to check the thread history. First thing, I'm going to see, okay, is this a brand new message? Is this someone reaching out to me for the first time? Or is this someone I've already had a back and forth with? And basically, depending on how many messages have been sent, if it's just kind of one message, I know this is a brand new client. And so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to evaluate the new lead based on some criteria I set to see if this is a good fit, if we can work together, and to already try to get them some information about what it would take me to build the system, how much it would cost, what I need from them if I'm missing any sort of information. And then again, it's going to draft an email inquiry, it's going to label it, and it's going to store it in my inbox. If there are multiple messages, if we've already had a back and forth, basically the AI is going to just kind of summarize the thread to basically understand the conversation we've had, and it's just going to generate a response based off the existing conversation. And the third route is if this is an existing client. So remember I said I'm getting those label IDs for the thread. And basically if I already have things labeled as client, this kind of automation knows that we're already working together. I don't need you to do anything. Skip it and move on. So now that you understand kind of how this system works, let me go through step by step, basically just to break it down for you in a little bit more detail and really get into n8n and show you how powerful this thing is. And so this top route here, again, this is designed to trigger automatically every time I get a new email. So basically at any point moving forward, anytime I get a new email, it's going to run through this flow as soon as I kind of switch this toggle to active, right? I'm going to turn it off for now. And then it's going to go through the whole flow. This bottom route I designed because, again, I hadn't responded to a bunch of emails and I wanted to go through the same process for maybe some sponsorship opportunities I might have missed. So once I'm ready, I'm basically just going to swap out the test workflow trigger for the Gmail trigger in this flow and kind of carry on. So I found that the order of things matter. So the first thing that happens once you kind of test this workflow is you're going to get labels, right? So I'm just getting all of the labels that exist inside of Gmail. And then what I'm doing is I created this little code block, and I don't code. I don't know what this means. I asked Claude or ChatGPT to write this for me. And what this is doing is basically just looking through all of those thread IDs or all of those label IDs to figure out which ones correspond to anything that I have named with the word client. And so again, this is to exclude any clients that I'm already working with from this flow because I don't need to draft auto responses. I will correspond with them personally. So once that's done, I'm just going to go to this Gmail node. And basically, this is just going to get a whole bunch of emails from my inbox. I have this set to 5 right now. Once I'm ready to run this for real, I'm going to set this to 100, and it's going to go through all my emails, and it's going to evaluate every single one of them to see if there are any missed sponsorship opportunities or new business opportunities. Probably didn't miss any new business opportunities, but I definitely didn't respond to everybody who wants sponsorships. From here, I'm basically just editing the fields. I'm just kind of setting some fields manually to make sure that we always have access to them. Again, the sender address, my personal email address, the subject of the email, the body of the email, the ID of the thread, again, so that when we get later in the flow, it can kind of keep track of the entire conversation. And then any of the label IDs that are coming from this field right here so that I know what it's labeled with. And again, the goal was to match up the label ID of a single email with any of the label IDs that means that this person is already a client. So the way to do this is you basically just want to come in and kind of drag and drop. You definitely have to look through this a lot to basically find all the specific fields that you need. A lot of the stuff is at the bottom. If you drag in the text from here, this is kind of the body of the email. The subject is down here, kind of the to address and the from address. And the way to make sure that you have access to all of this is back in this Gmail node here. You want to make sure by default simplified is turned on, and you actually won't get all of the information that you need. So if I just go ahead and test this, you can see we have some of it, but this really just gives you a snippet, a from, a to, just a little bit of information. It doesn't give you everything that you need. So if you just kind of turn simplify off and you go ahead and run this flow, now you'll have access to everything that basically Gmail has access to. And again, you have to look through this a little bit, but you'll be able to find what you're looking for. So now that's set, this part is really important. This is the text classifier. And so what this is doing, this is basically, again, identifying if it's a sponsorship opportunity, a new business opportunity, an existing client, or basically none of the above, in which case nothing will happen, right? And this is all based off of a little bit of criteria that I set. If you're unfamiliar with how n8n works, basically this left side is the input. This is coming from earlier in the flow. This middle is where you set all of your parameters, and this right side is the output of any specific node. So if we go in here, we can see how this works. So basically all I've done, I've given it the text to classify. So I've just put in the email subject, the email message, and the label IDs. And this is coming from the edit fields that we set just before this. And all you have to do to get this working is basically, if you just want the body of this, you would just go ahead and you would just drag and drop this in here. And you can see that this is just a little bit of code, a little bit of expression. And if you come to the right side here, this is what it's outputting. So basically this is outputting all of the text that we set in here in its full form. And if you look up at the top, it's basically identified that 2 of the emails that we put in are sponsorship opportunities. There's no new business opportunities. And can't really see this. Let me see. If I come over here, there's actually 3 items that are existing clients, and we're not going to follow up with those. So I've just gone ahead and created a couple categories. 1, sponsorship opportunity. So you just this is basically an AI agent. So you just have to tell it what to look for. So it just says a sponsorship email is an incoming message from a brand, company, or representative offering a paid partnership, collaboration, or promotion opportunity. These messages typically reference a product, tool, or service and express interest in having the creator promote it through content such as social media posts or videos. They will often ask for rates or a media kit. Next category is a new business opportunity. We just give it a little description. I probably had ChatGPT write these descriptions. A new business opportunity is an incoming message from an individual or company expressing interest in using AI or automation to improve their workflow, content creation, marketing, or business operations, et cetera, et cetera. And the last is an existing client. And all it says is an existing client will have one of these label IDs. And again, so this is why it was so important that I pulled out all of the label IDs from Gmail that are labeled as client. So basically this node can say, all right, is the email labeled with any of these IDs? If so, put it in the existing client branch. Don't pass it on to the rest of the workflow. And this is just a system prompt that actually comes with the automation. Please classify the text provided by the user into one of the following categories and use the provided formatting instructions below. Don't explain and only output the JSON. Now from here, since we've decided that we have a couple items that are sponsorship opportunities, I've passed it through another LLM chain. If you want to add this, you just come in here, you can type in LLM and add the basic LLM chain. This allows you to choose which model you use, whether you want to use ChatGPT or Claude or really anything else. And so basically I've asked this evaluator to do a couple things. Evaluate the post based on criteria that I've set and give a recommendation. Yes, should I work with them? Maybe, but I need some more information. Or no, this isn't a good fit. And then from there, it just kind of gives me a rationale for why I would want to work with them. And this means that basically the email has included all of the information that I need to tell this person I'm down to work together. This is one of my favorite things about AI. I was able to use ChatGPT to help with a lot of this. So I came into ChatGPT and I said, you are an expert in social media and brand partnerships. I create content around AI and automation and am frequently contacted by brands and products wanting me to promote them and create content around them. First, I need to develop a set of criteria to evaluate the proposals and identify if they're of interest to me or if I need more information from the potential partner. Then this is one of my favorite sentences to use. You can use this all the time. You will get incredible responses from ChatGPT. Just say, ask me questions until you are 95% sure you can complete this task. So what happens here is that ChatGPT is going to go ahead and ask me some personal questions about my brand and content, like what topics, or niches do you consistently cover? What do you want to be associated with? What tone or personality do you aim for? Ask me about my audience. Who is your ideal audience or customer? What products or tools do they already use or want to use? Ask me about my goals and revenue. What's more valuable to me? Cash payments, long-term partnerships, affiliate commission, equity, brand growth, et cetera, et cetera. Would you promote a product just for good money, or does it have to align with your values and audience? Any information about my past partnerships, and then a little bit of information about my capacity and style. So what types of content do you usually make? Do I prefer one-off posts or long-term relationships? How do I vet a product? Do I need a trial, a demo, access to the backend, et cetera? And basically, I just went through and in this big block of text, I answered as many of those questions as I could, and then kind of left the rest blank and let kind of ChatGPT kind of figure it out from there. So basically, it just said, based on your answers, I'm now about 90% there. It asked me a few clarifying questions about product fit, expectations, and some logistics. And then I kind of gave it the answers to this too. And so from there, it just gave me this brand evaluation checklist. Is it related to AI, automation, ChatGPT, or adjacent tools? Would it genuinely interest your audience? Is it something you personally use or explore? Are they offering direct cash payment? Because I said, I don't want to work with brands that just do affiliate links, because that's a lot of work on me for basically kind of an unknown return. So if they're offering me cash, I'm happy to make content for them. Otherwise, it's too much work for me. If it's affiliate only though, and the brand, if it's affiliate only, but the brand is really well known, if ChatGPT reaches out to me and wants me to create content for them, then I am super down for an affiliate program, right? And then, access. Are they offering hands-on access or a full trial? I can't just go out here promoting tools unless I try them or have access to them or kind of know what I'm getting into. Here, I just asked it to remove the emoji because I know I'm going to use this in AI. It's unnecessary. And now here, I actually had ChatGPT reformat this for the AI agent. And I just said, we need to adapt the checklist a little. Basically, I'm using AI automation to evaluate this criteria for me and determine whether or not I should work with them. Once evaluated, I'll use AI to draft an appropriate response. So I need you to rewrite the checklist in a way that I can give it to AI and they're able to properly evaluate incoming messages on my behalf. So basically, this just turned this checklist into this really cool evaluation logic for an AI agent. So here's the output, a recommendation of yes, maybe, or no. Here's the criteria. Does it, is it a product fit? And this is, again, based on what it says. Like, is it related to AI automation or ChatGPT? Yes or no. If it's yes, continue. If not, stop. Does it appear to be useful? Do they offer kind of direct cash payment, et cetera, et cetera? So again, this is how you can use ChatGPT to help you with your prompting if you're unsure what to say. And then you can see here, this says, can you also write a brief 1 to 2 sentence description for a text classifier? This description should define what constitutes a sponsorship email, the way that system can properly identify incoming messages. And so we saw those earlier. And so if we come back in here to n8n, you can basically see I have this system message that just says, you're an expert in brand partnerships and content creation. Your task is to evaluate an incoming email and determine its fit based on the following criteria. And then I just copied and pasted the criteria from ChatGPT into here. You can see a product fit, compensation, et cetera, et cetera. So with just a couple, with a little bit of back and forth with ChatGPT and a couple simple lines of a system message, the system is really, really powerful. And all I did here is I just gave it the subject of the email and the body, so that basically knew what content I was talking about. Then I added the switch module, and basically this kind of sends it down a couple of different routes, based off the recommendation. Is the recommendation yes, no, or maybe? And all I did here was just piped in the recommendation here, and it just says, is this equal to yes? Is this equal to no? Is this equal to maybe? If it's equal to no, it just kind of labels the message in my Gmail as kind of like a sponsorship declined opportunity, just so in case I want to reference it later, like I still have it. If it's yes or if it's maybe, it's going to come up here to this sponsorship response. Again, I'm using the basic LLM chain. In this case, I'm actually using Claude to write the posts because I find that Claude kind of has like a more natural writing style. So I have a couple fields here. I basically have a system prompt and 2 user prompts. And so I just have the original message, which is coming from the body of the text classifier, and the recommendation, which I'm just pulling from the switch node right here. So it just says yes. And I also included the rationale, right? Like why do we make the choice that we did? So I'm just trying to give the system information to kind of like draft the appropriate response. So remember, if it's maybe, it'll say like, okay, like this is a good opportunity, but maybe it's missing some information. Maybe it doesn't tell you specific rates or things like that. And so here's the system prompt. And again, I basically created this inside of ChatGPT. I just said, now I need a prompt for an AI agent. If the incoming email is evaluated and determined to be a yes for a sponsorship, the agent is to draft an affirmative email response. Thank them for reaching out and letting the sender know I'm interested in working together and what next steps are. If the email is determined to be a maybe, the agent is to draft a response, thanking them for reaching out and requesting more info depending on what info is still needed. So again, it's matching my personal criteria with the email that's sent and kind of picking the best course of action to take and then drafting a response. And so here it just says you'll receive the original message from the sponsor and evaluation object that includes the evaluation outcome, yes or maybe, the rationale for why the message was evaluated in the manner it was, and then the response rules. If the evaluation is yes, write a friendly professional email thanking the sender for reaching out, express interest in working together, suggest next steps, et cetera, et cetera. If it's a maybe, express interest, clarify any missing information, like are there, clarify any payment details that I need access to, the product or a demo, et cetera. And so you can see here from here, it basically just drafts these emails, right? And these are the ones that we saw earlier in my inbox. And then all it does, I'm just using a Gmail node here to actually draft the email with a subject line that was kind of from the original email. So it's just keeping the same subject line. This is the message that's coming out of the sponsorship response up here. The original thread ID, which is coming out of the text classifier. So to make sure that I'm actually replying to the existing thread and not just like sending like a separate email, it actually connects to the existing thread. You can add these options down here in the add option. And then the to email, I'm just kind of grabbing from the sender address here in the edit fields to make sure that I'm replying to the actual email, because otherwise it'll draft the email for you, but it actually won't include, the reply or the address that you're replying to. And then here, I'm just labeling it. This is basically just using Gmail. If you come in here, you type in Gmail, you can go here and you can just come into add label to message. And I'm just grabbing the thread ID from the text classifier down here. This is the ID of the thread. So it's going to label every single email in the thread, and it's just going to label it with sponsorship opportunities. So once this is done, I come back into my email here and you can see I have these 2 drafts waiting for me and they're both labeled. And so if I just come into my sponsorship opportunities label here, you can see I can open this up and I basically have this. Thanks so much for reaching out about a potential collaboration. Based on what you shared, I'd be happy to create a TikTok video. My rate for sponsored posts, 30 to 60 seconds is $300. If you prefer a more in-depth product review or demo, that would be $500, et cetera, et cetera. And basically inside of this sponsorship response, I forgot to show this, but I created a user text and I basically just said here's my creator rate card for reference, include relevant rates in your response, but do not mention any attachments. Cause I found it was like, oh, like attached is my media kit or my rate card. And I'm not putting an attachment in. So I don't want to to say that on the message. I just said, use this info where relevant, the creator rate card, my niche, any of the main platforms. I have 50K on TikTok, 4K on YouTube. And then basically just here are my rates for TikTok and for YouTube content. And I also wanted to make sure that like I could do custom projects or long-term collaborations. Sometimes these companies are like, oh, like, could you make 3 posts for us? And that kind of what I would treat that a little bit differently. Cool. Now this bottom route, remember, if we go back in here, basically this is all designed to evaluate new business opportunities. It basically determines whether this is kind of like a brand new email, we're getting this for the first time, or if we've already had a little bit of back and forth with the client, and then determining like how best to respond. So I just sent myself this email from a different account. It just says, hi, Duncan, I'm reaching out to see if you'd be interested in helping me build an AI-powered automation for a web scraping project. The goal is to streamline the process of extracting specific data from websites and organize it into a structured format for further analysis, et cetera, et cetera. So this is kind of like a typical email that I might get from a client. You will notice that this doesn't include any timeline or rate details. Okay, so I did have to do a little bit of troubleshooting to get the top route working so that I can run this system with both kind of like old emails and new emails. So the good news is that like the majority of this that we've already gone through has actually stayed the same. The only thing I changed on the bottom route here is I added this extra merge node here, which is going to merge the client label code and all the messages coming from Gmail. This way we're evaluating every message that comes in and matching it up to the existing emails. Before it was actually only processing one at a time. So having this merge node actually allows us to pass this through the entire system for every single email that comes in. And on the top route, it's basically the same thing that's happening here. So we're triggering this when a new email comes in through Gmail. We're getting all of the labels, again, that are labeled with client. And then we're extracting just those label IDs from here. And then we're merging these together. So again, we can kind of compare the extracted label IDs labeled as client with the new email that's coming in. And then this merge node here just kind of allows us to merge the top and bottom route. And so the automation will run regardless of kind of like which way we trigger the flow. And so we have this email here that came in from our man, Mike, right? Interested in an automation opportunity. So if we just go ahead and we run this through once, you can see we're just getting this new email. We're getting all the labels. We're extracting the client ID. We're coming in here. And then here we're actually filtering it out to make sure that it matches. And then you can see here what's happening is the text classifier has actually properly classified this email as a new business opportunity. Because remember that we've labeled a new business opportunity. We'll say will not have any of these labels. And I give it the label for clients, right? Because we don't want to make sure it's not an existing client. And we say it's an incoming message from an individual or company expressing interest in working directly with me to use AI or automation to improve their workflow, content creation, marketing, or business operations. These messages often include pain points, goals, or questions about building or implementing automated systems using tools like ChatGPT, Make.com, n8n, or custom workflows. And then it says these messages will not include the word clients in their label, just to make sure that we're feeding it the right thing. And so you can see here, this has properly classified this as new business, right? This is someone reaching out to me to get working on a project together for the first time. So down here, we basically have 2 different routes. One route is basically if it's a brand new message, if we haven't had any sort of back and forth, if I haven't replied to their email, is this is this bottom route here is for brand new inquiries. And this top route here actually is if I've already had a back and forth with the client, we're figuring out details, we're hashing it out. So this top route is actually going to be able to get all of the data in the thread and then kind of decide on the response from there. And so you can see here what's going on is we're just using this get thread node from Gmail just to basically get the thread ID and kind of pull out all of the messages that are coming from the thread. Here, we're getting the length. And so this is just like a tiny little bit of custom code. Again, I use ChatGPT to write this. It's really basic. All it's doing is counting how many messages are in this email thread, right? And so basically, like if it's only one message, we know that this is a brand new, inquiry from a brand new client. And so we can send it down the new inquiry route. If there's more than one message, we know we've already established a relationship and we've had a back and forth. And it's going to send that down this top route here to build a kind of a slightly different type of response. So the next thing that happens is this gets passed through to the new business evaluator. And this is working largely similarly to how the sponsorship evaluator worked. And so I actually just used ChatGPT again for this. And I just said, now I need a prompt for an AI agent. This agent's job is to evaluate and respond to new business opportunities related to AI automations. Clients often reach out to me asking me to build or implement systems for them. I need to be able to draft a response quickly. So it kind of just created this AI agent prompt for me and some example outputs. And I wanted to remove the emoji because we don't need it again. And then I just said, is there any additional criteria I should use to evaluate if the opportunity is a good fit and one I should pursue? So it just kind of gives me some evaluation criteria, like the quality of the problem, like are they using relevant platforms to me? Does it sound like a one-off request, a quick build, or like a full-blown system? Will there be a lot of back and forth, et cetera, et cetera? Then I just asked it, are there any other questions I can answer so we can better use AI to evaluate the opportunity? So it just kind of like asked me some questions, like what types of automation services do you actually want to offer? Are you open to recurring work or do you prefer one-off builds? What tools are you using? Do you prefer working with individuals, startups, agencies? So I just kind of went ahead and answered all of these questions. And then it gave me kind of this new prompt here. So if we come in, we can go into the system prompt now. And this is in the new business evaluator. And it just says you are an AI evaluator responsible for analyzing incoming business inquiries for AI automation services. The goal is to determine whether the lead is valid, aligned with the creator's expertise, and worth pursuing. Your output should include an evaluation status, reasoning, and a priority level. And then some context. So this is about me, right? So provides AI automation services using these platforms. My preferred projects are clear, focused, and strategically something that can be repurposed into content or products, because I like to kind of make systems for my clients. Then I can then, show off on YouTube and talk about them and create content and hopefully get more clients to create more content, and kind of the cycle really just feeds itself, right? And so kind of just some more criteria, kind of scoring for it, checks for red flags, et cetera, et cetera. And so you can see here that this email came in, and in the prompt, I really just fed it the subject of the email and the body of the email, which I'm really just grabbing from the email down here itself. And this is our email here from Mike. And so the evaluator is evaluating it. It gives it a 22 score, gives it an evaluation of valid, and it doesn't recommend a consultation, right? This is someone who actually wants to work together, isn't just looking for me to provide advice. And so then it just gives like some rationale. It just says it's a valid automation opportunity. It aligns with services offered. The goals are clear and focused. The sender appears professional and open to collaboration. Although no budget is explicitly mentioned, the project seems to be substantial enough to meet the minimum rate, right? So it just gives me kind of like some things to look out for. So basically, I'm just feeding all of that into this new inquiry response, right? This is the same way we're responding to the sponsors, except here we're just doing it, for new business. And so we're giving it the original message, which again, is basically just kind of like the email message, and then the rationale, right? How the business evaluator evaluated the opportunity for me. And so basically now this little agent knows how to respond. And so again, I use ChatGPT to help with this prompt, and it just says you're an assistant responsible for handling inbound inquiries from individuals or companies interested in AI automation services. Your job is to evaluate the message, draft professional reply, or request more information to scope the project. Or if the inquiry is clear, acknowledge the request and then invite the client to next step, like booking a call or sharing the requirements. Then some things to look for, et cetera, some questions that I can ask them. And the last thing down here on the bottom is I just said, here's my calendar link for a 30-minute intro call. And so if it feels like the opportunity is like good and I want to work with this person, I'll just say like, hey, book like a 30-minute intro call. And I offer this totally for free. This is just kind of like a way to get to know each other and figure out what the client's needs like really are. And then I also say, here's my calendar link for a 1-hour consultation at a rate of $150 an hour. This is what I charge for a consultation. Feel free to put your own rates in there. And basically, this is just a different link, right? And so if the client basically, they don't want me to build something for them, but they say like, hey, my business is struggling with XYZ, like, can you maybe give some input? Then in that case, I'd actually want to respond with the consultation link and kind of get paid for that, right? And then it just says, please incorporate one of these if and where relevant in HTML format, and then hyperlink it in the text, book a call. So we can see here the inquiry response kind of evaluated this email opportunity, right? It just says, hi, Mike, thanks for reaching out about your AI-powered web scraping project, et cetera, et cetera. And I'll show you what this email looks like in my inbox, right? Because after that, we just draft the email with this content and we label it as a new business inquiry. So if we come back into my email inbox, you can see here that this is, labeled new business. It's in my draft folder. If I come into new business down here, we basically have this, and then here's the email, right? Like it's really nicely formatted in HTML format. So you have these bullet points. We have my hyperlink down here, to book a call. It inserted the link properly. Just says, thanks for reaching out about your AI-powered web scraping project. This is definitely the kind of automation I specialize in. Your goal of extracting specific data and organizing a structural format sounds like a perfect use case. I've worked on several similar projects. To help me understand your needs better, I'd love to know, are there any specific websites you're targeting? What kind of data are you looking to extract? Do you have any existing workflows? And then, of course, most importantly, what's your timeline and budget range for this project? So we want to make sure before we agree to work with anyone, we have answers to those questions. Then it just says, I'd be happy to book a call. If they don't want to respond in email and they kind of just want to talk things through, we can book a 30-minute call. I'm happy to give 30 minutes of my time if it means that I might get a new client and a new relationship out of it. So I'm going to send this off to me. And just for testing purposes, I'll come over to ChatGPT, draft a reply to this email, make sure to include budget and timeline. Cool. So I just use ChatGPT to create a response so we can basically see how the other part of this, the last part of this automation works, right? If we already have a conversation going. So Mike responded to me. He just said, thanks for getting back to me so quickly. We really appreciate the detail in your response. I'm targeting around 5 to 7 websites to start, with the potential to scale up. Here's what I'm looking to extract in the data. And then it says your proposed budget range of $1,500 to $3,500 sounds reasonable. My ideal timeline would be to have a working MVP within the next 2 to 3 weeks. Let me know what works for you. I'd be happy to schedule a call, et cetera, et cetera. So what's really cool now is if I come back into this email evaluator and I'll run this Gmail trigger again, right? We can evaluate this to see that this isn't, anyone labeled client. They're not an existing client. This is still new business. But now you can see here that this is actually sending this down this top route because it's identified that we've actually have multiple messages in our thread, right? So basically this is getting the thread here with the thread ID. And then this little code node, again, I use ChatGPT to build this, is actually just pulling out the entire conversation so it can understand like the entire back and forth that the client and myself have had. And so from there, again, I can just pass this into a thread response, right? And I can just pipe in a message thread here from the conversation into the user prompt. And again, this will just basically pull in the entire conversation so it knows what's going on. Again, in my other user field here, again, I have the calendar links just in case it needs them again. And then a slightly different system prompt. It says you're an AI assistant responsible for continuing and responding to already qualified message threads related to AI automation services. The lead has already been identified. First, read the full conversation history, understand what the lead has said, asked, or needs, identify what the next logical step should be, and then draft a professional, clear, and helpful reply. So this is really helpful for me, just having a back and forth. Again, I can have these drafted automatically for me. And then just as the client asks about pricing or the conversation is moving towards scope and cost, and then follow these pricing guidelines, right? I just gave you some guidelines for me. Always aim to guide the lead towards one of the following: booking a discovery call, sharing more details about their systems, or starting with a paid consultation. And then a couple more rules and things like that. So again, this drafted a response for me. It basically created the draft of my email and it labeled the thread again. And so if we pop back into my email now, you can see I have another draft here waiting for Mike. And it just says, hi, Mike, thanks for sharing those details. This sounds like a focused project with clear goals, and I'm confident we can build something valuable for you. Based on what you've described, here's what they described. Your timeline of 2 to 3 weeks is definitely achievable. The scope you've outlined fits well within the budget range I typically work with for similar projects. Then I say the next best step will be to book a call where we can discuss the specific websites, where you want the data to be stored, any authentication requirements, how you envision interacting with the automation. This will allow me to give you a more precise quote and timeline. I've got availability this week if you'd like to move quickly. Looking forward again. Hope this, saves you countless hours of manual data extraction. Thanks again, me. So I hope you can really see the power of a system like this to get you lots of sponsorships, get you lots of new business, and save you a lot of time from having to manually reply to every single email, new business inquiry, sponsorship opportunity that comes in. This will evaluate those things for you and then draft a response on your behalf for you to review before actually sending out to a particular sponsor or a new client. So if you enjoyed this video, please make sure you subscribe to this channel and check out the video up here where I show you how to make an entire social media hub that I have personally sold to clients for thousands of dollars. I'll see you over there.